I look forward to it.
So we have that background.
Now she's in Sonoma, so that's Northern California still, right?
That's wine country, right?
Yeah.
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 She's north of the.
Because I'm going to be out in. I'm having an event at the Cheesecake Factory headquarters in Calabasas in June. She'd want to come down, but that's a 3-4 hour drive, close to 5-hour drive. It's a 45-minute flight, though. We used to go back and forth. I lived both in Pasadena and then in San Francisco, so we go between it quite a bit. I still imagine you at the Danville Hotel. Yeah. I love the Danville Hotel. I used to hitch my horse not too far from the Danville Hotel. Back then there was actually a railroad. They took it out to have a walking path, but back then there was actually a working railroad, and I would run my horses by the railroad tracks.
I remember I didn't see him, but Denise, who was my performing partner, she mentioned Billy. You know, Billy Martin was. He was the New York Yankees coach.
Yeah,
and he was there drunk a lot.
Oh, really? I didn't know he was there. I know that
I didn't know he was from that area.
This is AM 950. Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
If I had not moved, we would have been in the same class at San Ramon High School. But I moved just as he was moving from Michigan in, and I was moving from San Francisco to Washington, D.C. Hello, are you with us, Maggie? Not yet. Hey, Maggie, are you with us? Not yet. Is Maggie on the line?
Yes. Hello.
Maggie is on the line. Go. Now we've got. Hey, hello,
Yeah,
Maggie. Hi. Welcome
Hi.
to Connections Radio Show. We're glad you're joining us today.
This is Rick.
Thank you.
Hi.
Rick.
Can we hear me? I hear me. Good morning.
I can hear you.
All right.
Rick, Maggie, tell us a little bit about executive leadership coaching that you do so that we can get a sound check.
Okay. I do executive leadership coaching in the wine industry. I have a niche specialty. I do that because I have 30 years in the wine industry. Oh my God, 30 years. And I also have training as an executive coach. So put the two together.
How fabulous. We've got sound check. In my other life that I do concurrently with the radio is I work with the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. So we do a lot of partnerships. Yeah,
I bet. And it's also important to say educational foundation because sometimes people call it the NRA.
I know.
And it's not the
I know.
NRA.
And then if I say NRAEF, people go, what? But when I do say NRA, I say buns, not guns, people. So
Yes. Speaking of Valentine's Day,
because I had some people totally freak out when I said, I'm working now with the NRA, and they went, where have you gone? Where's Lori gone? She's not there. And I'm like, oh, no, I forgot. No, restaurant. Lots of fun, hospitality, all good.
Lori, we can go up at any time.
All right. I think that was Dan's hint that we need to get going.
And where we could. And Maggie, for your introduction, does STEM mean the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or not? Or should I even mention that, or what?
Yes, it does. And yes, please do, because
I think it's important, especially
it's part of your background.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also, but offline sometime, Maggie, I'd love to talk to you about the work that I do because I work with multicultural leaders, and that's part of my support for the foundation. And I'd love to talk to you about executive coaching because we're looking at a leadership program that we're developing. So that's on another topic.
Awesome.
Another day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
So how it goes, Maggie, is we're going to start with music, and then I do a little intro, and we're going to pretend that it's live. It's, Valentine's was last week. Now we have to, do a time shift for ourselves. And
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
and when we refer to Valentine's Day, we may, and I may, that was last week's learning, and how we're still resonating to that. I will hand it off to Rick after I do my little, how we're all connected. And Rick will talk about our topic today and introduce you, and then we'll just start chatting. And I love the idea of being able to talk about vocation and career and what that all looks like, and our love of what we do, and or not. What is it all about?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, Dan. Yes, you may start the music now. Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us laughing, get us wondering, get us imagining, get us connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do just a bit more because we made the connection. Hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo. And last week we kicked off our series on the diversity of love connections. February is a big love month. And we decided to look at love in a variety of ways. And when you hear that paper wrestling, that's just our friend Rick making sure he's got all of his notes. There we go. Rick.
I'm not reading the newspaper. It's just actual notes.
So, Rick, as you've pulled up your notes, share with us some of your ideas that you had in creating this series.
Oh, that. There are so many layers, and we're going to speak with Maggie Huffman about, she does a lot of work with layers of love, layers to relationships, layers horizontal and vertical in what love can be. And we're exploring this weekend and last, the diversity of love connections. And that can have a lot to do with how we relate to our own paths in life. So Maggie Huffman is an executive leadership coach based in Sonoma, California, north of where I lived for many years in the Bay Area. She's the founder of Color Thinking, which we'll hear more about. It's fascinating. She spent over 20 years in the wine industry and the STEM field, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And she started as a temp, probably not long after we parted ways in graduate school, and climbed the corporate ladder to the C-suite. So I was just amazed, not shocked, but amazed at how many positions she went through as I knew her over the years. And she held several degrees and certifications, all about helping others. And she's authored books in recent years. She uses a unique mix of science, corporate strategies, medical, physical mysteries, and old-fashioned pop culture to help make working with her fun and make it a rewarding experience. So her website is therainbowonion.com. So Maggie, I'll stop talking and ask you to say good morning, and I say good morning to you.
Morning, Rick.
Good morning to you both. I do have a question for you. We've talked about love last week in terms of, self-love, as well as, sometimes combating our fear of expectations and whatnot. I think as we choose what career we want or what we want to do out in either the corporate or, professional life, we can not always feel aligned. We can either feel great passion and love of what we're doing, and sometimes not. How do you approach coaching executives as they're on their journey? Because there is a love of doing, something rewarding, and that you want to eventually be in a job, I would assume, that doesn't feel like you even would need to be paid if you were aligned to that passion.
Absolutely. I agree. When you love what you do, I mean, you still want to get paid, right? There's
Sure,
this myth
we
that
have
you
to.
would
We
do it
need
for free, but
right.
yeah, we want to get paid. Yeah.
Right.
But when you love, when you love what you do, you, I think one of the biggest things that you discover is you still have room for life, so you can love your life and love your work. That to me is what true work-life balance is. When you have enough energy left over, and in fact, maybe you even get energy from the work that you do, that you can still love your life.
And how does that occur? I mean, how do you make the discoveries or allow yourself to find the discoveries of loving what you do? Because so often our society is just pushing us towards either making more money or just get a job. You know, passion's nice, but it doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah. Well, if I had an answer that I could give to you in 2 sentences, I would bottle it and make everybody happy. But fundamentally, I think it really is getting to know who you are, being comfortable in your own skin, understanding your own gifts, being comfortable with the things that aren't your gifts, and what might be your challenges and opportunities, because you don't have to be perfect, and then figuring out where you can use those doing something that you like to do. I think you have to start liking it, then you'll learn to love it.
Is there a difference between a career and a vocation?
There can be. There sure can be. A vocation, you don't necessarily have to be paid for. For example, lots of musicians feel that that's their vocation, their calling, if you will, but they have day jobs to fund it. I think that can happen really frequently. Sometimes you get the career that you love, that's a calling, that's a vocation. And sometimes a career is just something that you really, really like doing, but it could be something else. Because you like what you're doing, not necessarily where you're doing it, or you might even just love the people that you're working with, and you care about them and their success. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's definitely a career. It still may not be a vocation.
And when you're coaching folks, what are some things that you like to do to help establish the relationship and be able to have them explore these ideas?
I do a lot of exercises, and I really get to know them. I tend to have them, we'll go down one of 2 roads. One is we're either exploring what they do and how to figure out whether they like it or not, and if they don't like it, how to find what they do want. I mean, sometimes there's this challenge of really admitting I'm not happy and I don't love what I'm doing, but I should. So we work through that if that's the case. But there's another lane to go down, which is I like what I'm doing. I want to learn to love it, and I want to be better at it. And in that case, then we work on skills and beliefs and opportunities and development, and really taste success and get almost addicted to what success feels like, so that there's always more and more success. Was that clear?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the path
there's
is
2 paths. Okay.
Either it sounds like either a less than or a more than. I want more of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or I want less of that.
Yeah. Yes. And so the first step is often learning to understand feedback. It seems like this is a non sequitur, but it's not, because feedback is information. So often we turn the feedback that we get from the world around us into something that is, we make it mean something about us instead of it just being information. And we turn it inward so much that we can't really glean what we should be able to glean from it. So I almost always start with, let's get you comfortable with getting feedback so that you can treat it as information, and then you're more informed.
Is some of the challenge of getting information part of the power structure? So that if someone who is supervising you and in a power dynamic gives you feedback, there is fear that can be addressed in
Yep.
there. And there's also, again, that feeling less than instead of being able to process the information. So there's almost a double barrel fear coming at you. This person is my supervisor and I need to do what they say. And if I'm not doing it right, I must be doing it wrong.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why understanding that feedback is information is so important.
Yeah.
When you hear that and it's fear, you are making it mean something about you. You take it personally. You are less than, you are not empowered, and you're the victim of what somebody else tells you and what somebody else thinks.
And
when you understand,
and you can walk away just feeling just bad instead of being able to have it mean anything.
Right. You can't get anything out of it other than I'm terrible.
Right.
Or they hate me.
And
or
I'm not good enough.
And
on that,
that's not good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But when you understand, when we learn that feedback is information, that it is, I learn how to not take it personally. This doesn't necessarily mean anything about me, particularly not my worth as a human being. It might be that I'm misbehaving or I don't have a skill. Okay, that's fine. But I'm I'm still
and be able to roll
human.
with it, Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can turn the insight into, okay, so even if they're wrong, I can still learn something. I can learn what their biases are.
Right.
I can learn what's important to them. And then not only have I empowered myself about my own belief about myself, my own value, I've also just given myself some information that I can use to help get along with them or explain something to them or show them what they want to see. However I decide to use it, I've just given myself.
Because very often the person who's delivering some of those messages are also fear-based and may be relieved at it being processed and not taken too personally. And then it opens up the door for more information. But you said something that really struck me that I think is really important about, your value. I mean, that's where it really comes down. When you feel comfortable with your value, you can have feedback that can be processed as information.
Yes.
And
when you
go ahead.
Go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say, it reminds me, now Maggie and I know each other from graduate school years ago in Berkeley at the Pacific School of Religion. But I remember when I got there and I first met Maggie, some of my professors were like, Rick, where did you learn to write? Actually, one of my professors asked me to author a paper with her. I was like, whoa. But anyway, this whole source of that was a teacher, actually more than one teacher in college, that taught me not only how to write, but how to take the feedback about my writing. And by the time I was done with those teachers, because they would assign me to other teachers who would also work on my writing. By the time I was done with them, I knew how to write. And it was only from exercising, getting the feedback. And that whole attitude, the teachers had some power over me. It's not like a job, but that was the whole source of me not only learning how to write, but learning how to learn.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what being able to take feedback not personally is a way to learning how to learn.
Well, I think it's great that we're exploring love and almost creating a space for learning as love and being able to love getting feedback because we can process it as information and not a value judgment. Are you there, Maggie?
Yep.
Oh, good.
That's excellent.
I was using that as a wrap up.
She's nodding her head.
Yeah, I got that.
I use it as a wrap up. So we're so glad
the
that you're
was a little bit of a cue.
Yeah. We're so glad that you're with us today. I want to learn more about the Rainbow Onion, the work that you do with the Rainbow Onion, and we'll hear that in the next segment. And stay with us. We'll be back after just a few short commercials here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Okay, ready to come up?
And I'll make it up at some point in the show. Good morning and welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. We're continuing our series with our friend Rick Bernardo on looking at the diversity of love, how we can look at love in so many different ways. And Rick has been so kind to invite wonderful guests. And I'd love to have you, speaking of love, introduce your friend Maggie Hoffman, who's joining us in the second segment as well.
Maggie Hoffman is a leadership a coach and has worked for many years in the wine industry and various kinds of executive leadership positions. And I know her for years. And, Maggie Huffman, I need to thank you for you helped me get my first good resume together. I don't know how that happened, how I learned that you could help me with that. I think you just offered it. And that goes back some years. And it really helped me be on a path to so many careers and vocations. So thanks again for being with us, Maggie.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Maggie, tell me about the rainbow onion.
The rainbow onion is it's a book, and it's a way of thinking, and it's a website, and it really expresses my love of coaching. The rainbow onion is a book about color thinking, and the reason it's called the rainbow onion is rainbow is color, but the onion is about how humans process things. We process things in layers. And I love the metaphor of the onion, because as you peel one layer off, the next one can be pretty intense and pungent. And sometimes there's tears.
Yeah.
And we just, but yet what's not better without adding an onion? Like what food besides maybe strawberry shortcake? Is it great with an onion?
And now I want to have an onion with each layer being a different color. I'm visualizing the yellow, red, blue, orange, purple layers of onion. I want to colorize my onion.
Yeah. That I wish I could find one like that. That would be awesome.
So, and it is they are wonderful to saute as well as great in a salad. But getting back to how that can help as a metaphor in working with leaders. Have you had some aha moments in your coaching that helped you understand how better to create that peeling back of onions?
Yes, and that's where color comes in. So as leaders, we're really just humans, right? I mean, we don't turn into something else when we go to work. We're still humans who just go out the door in different clothes. To be able to understand that all the things that impact, if it's true in our life, it's true for us at work. Maybe we can hide behind professionalism a little bit, but it's still there. And the thing that holds us back most as humans in either situation or in any situation is are the beliefs that we hold about ourselves in the world that we're not aware of. Those unconscious, inherited, and most often outdated beliefs. And when we try to approach them with language, we have ways of doing that. We have regular coaching. We have talk therapy. There are all kinds of ways that we can approach it using words, but words filter through our brain, and it takes a long time. We have a huge capacity in our brain for visual processing, and we also have a whole history of using color in our life. Colors have meanings for us, and they have emotions. And so if we apply color to the changes that we want to make, if we use the language of color to do that, it's so fast because our brain is set up to process things like that visually very quickly. So so my aha is that by accessing colors and the meaning of colors, we can make changes in leaders and in our leadership style much more quickly than we can with any other modality I found. That was a long way to say
No, it's great.
it's a shortcut.
And a follow-up quick question. Do colors
Mhm.
have different meaning to different people? And so the colors vary
Absolutely.
with how you coach, or are there some trends you see in like the blues that elicit certain things?
Both, because colors as a language have layers of meaning. We can have the most basic universal things like yellow for the sun and sunflowers. So yellow has an energy of joy. It's also related to fear. So there's a what I call a bright side and a shadow side. You need to understand both elements, the spectrum of just within that one color. But then there's also a cultural layer. There can be a spiritual or a symbolic layer based on your life experience. And then there's your own memories. Like if, for example, one of my favorite dresses when I was a child had sunflowers all over it. That yellow means something different to me than it's going to you.
Mhm.
So understanding that all of that is there. There are messages and energies about color, but there's no such thing as a one size fits all anything, but certainly not with color. We can start with what's universal,
Mhm.
but then layer in what a person's experience and history is and let them build their own language of color.
Are there colors that draw you to help also in looking at what makes you happy in your career? Is that part of it too? Is being able to get a sense of this? Today I'm feeling yellow, and with that yellow, it's the sunflower side of yellow. And then when I'm doing this kind of work, I feel like I can really bloom. Is that part of it, or is there a different way of looking at the colors and how you coach executives?
That's an interesting way. I had never thought of it that way, so I'm going to have to go play with that.
Oh, good.
What I do is ask. Generally, we find what is holding someone back. What's their obstacle?
Mhm.
And for example, someone may be feeling very constrained. They may feel like they have no choices. They can feel like they're just trapped in their job. I know that the color that they need is green, because green is expansive and you think of open fields. And so they'll crave the green. The shadow side of green is feeling like you're trapped and you have no choices. But the bright side, the freeing side and the healing side is that open green, that fresh possibilities, that expansiveness. So we work with both aspects of that color, and we identify where they want to go with the color, and we intentionally associate that with green. Then they place green around them. They visualize green, but you also use your eyes. So you find something green to look at, or you get yourself in a green space, and you quickly associate that.
You wear
So
green
then every
color.
time
You
wear
you
green.
want to
You
eat
eat
collard
green.
greens. You do.
Yep.
You
Yep,
celebrate
exactly.
green.
Yeah, exactly. And by doing that, you can very quickly go. You shortcut all those outdated beliefs about I'm a victim, I'm trapped, I'm whatever, and you begin to see, oh, when I see green, I get this emotion of freedom and expansion and choices, and then I begin to see that I have more freedom and expansion and choices, because the more you think about something, the more you notice the things that are like it, right? There's a pattern that we do with that. And so then it begins to open up.
you know, I'm going to have to go buy your book. So I'm going to buy your book on the rainbow onion, and we're going to need to have you come back because I have so many follow-up questions. But I'm in the countdown now of what I need to do to close this segment, and I'm heartbroken because I want
Oh.
to continue to discuss about colors. I'm thinking of Kermit not being easy, being green, but I also am thinking of how wonderful green could be. So
I would say go to therainbowonion.com if you want to see and experience a little more. Either that or maggiehuffman.com. Both of those wonderful websites as an introduction.
thank you, Maggie, for being with us today
Oh, thank you.
and having us
Thank you.
explore our love of what we do and maybe finding ways to pursue our love through color and peeling back the onion, not being afraid to shed a few tears.
I'll get the next caller on.
Rick,
Rick?
one more question. Did we want to videotape this as well? And did it get videotaped?
It is being videotaped.
This is being videotaped. Good. Just wanted to make sure that they're both being.
Rick, I'm getting a message saying that this number is disconnected.
Maybe check the number.
Thanks. Well, let's see what it is. I think I wrote it down here. 665-7079.
I'm going to try it again.
For some reason now it's not coming up in my
Really?
665-7079. That's the right one. Let's just try it again, I think. Yeah. And I can try it too.
No, it's not service.
Let me make sure I got it. We'll check with him.
We could always call his wife back too.
Yeah, we could do that too, but maybe should I type this in?
Dan,
Mm-hmm.
the number for Kirsten Lynn Seal, do you still have that available?
Yes, I do.
That's her. We're trying to connect with her husband.
Okay.
So if you want to give her a call and verify the phone number,
Right.
that might be a good sneaky Pete way to get it.
I know she gave it to me, and it's all I can do to make sure. Okay. You know what? It's 655.
655. Okay.
Right. I think that's what it is. Typo. Duh. I still have to go to the bathroom.
We'll let you go. You don't need to call him right now because Rick needs to use the restroom. He'll be right
Okay.
back.
Anytime you're ready.
And,
Thanks.
and what did I say? It's 655. Okay. All right.
All right, we're good now. And
Well, we hope that number works too.
if not, we can call the wife.
Yeah.
We're good.
Be back.
Hey there. I just wanted to catch up on a couple things. Doing the second, we're doing a recording today. So that's why I'm not home yet. And I am also going to go to Costco. If there's anything that you think that you need, I'll call you after we do the last part of the recording. I've got half the show left to record.
Okay,
All right.
that sounds good.
Anything off the top of your head that you know you want?
No, I can also maybe send you a text if I think of anything.
Okay, that sounds good. But I will call you right when the show's over.
Happy recording.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Did you try calling me and I didn't answer?
I don't think so, but
How
maybe,
weird.
maybe,
Oh, last night you
maybe,
did.
yeah.
Last night you tried calling me
Yeah, there we
and I
go.
was already passed out. So sorry.
Would you like me to call?
I had a rough week.
Would you like me to call?
I'm sorry. You
Would-
may call him now. Yes. Thank you.
655.
Maggie's delightful. You're right. And there are maybe some opportunities.
She's very so sharp.
Yeah.
So down to earth and sharp. I love
Mhm.
this name.
This is Dan Riva at AM 950. I'm going to put you in contact with connection radio show. If you could hold on, they'll be coming up in just a moment. Please hold. Okay, he's on your line.
Hey, Pastor Seal, how are you? This is Lori.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
And Dean, I'm still Rick. I'm still here. Hi.
You're still Rick.
It's a
Kirsten seemed to have a good time with you guys today.
oh, good. We sure had a good time with her. She's very engaging, so it was fun to have a conversation.
Yeah, that was very fun.
She is.
Yeah.
She's a showbiz professional. She's on television every month with WCCO. You know that.
Well,
We
she's-
bragged about it a little bit.
Yeah, we bragged on
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Seal, I'm looking forward to having you tell us about love and justice throughout history. That sounds like a wonderful way to look at love as well. And I understand you're also going to be sharing about Minnesota housing and your passion for that.
Yes.
Great. How about if you just talk a little bit about your passion so that we get a sound level?
Okay. One of the things about churches aren't for everybody, and I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who works for a church, and I spent a long time going to churches, but I also spent a long time not going to churches, and so I had to find a reason to find a spiritual life in the connected community. So,
And Pastor,
and-
I'm going to have you
Yeah.
save because that was perfect. We got a sound
Okay.
check on you. And
Okay.
what I hear you about to say sounds like it would be perfect for the radio show. So
okay,
I want to save it for it.
Okay.
All right.
don't leave the game in the locker room.
That's
right?
right. That's right. We don't want to have the radio show before it's recording. And Dan, you're set with both Rick and my
Roger.
great. And Rogers too. Sorry. No,
How's Roger doing?
we love Roger. Roger shows up every week.
He's
all
very
right.
positive.
Yes. Okay. So you know the gig. And you're okay with me calling you Pastor Seal and not Reverend Seal, or do you have a preference?
Or
Pastor Dean is best.
Pastor
Okay.
Dean.
Pastor Dean, I'd love that. Okay. We'll introduce you as Reverend Dean Seal, Dean J. Seal, but I will call
Yeah.
you Pastor Dean.
Great.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm writing that down. All right.
Okay.
And then the gig is that we start with net music and I do a little intro. No. We've already done the net. Now
Right.
we just have a little bit of a net. And I do the show. This is because we're doing a show that matters about ideas. All right.
This is the third segment.
Yes. Third segment. All right.
Yeah, we're orienting.
All right. Pastor Dean Seal.
Great.
Stand by,
Pastor Dean.
please.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and joined the conversation today. We are having a show that is a continuation of a series on the diversity of love. We had a marvelous conversation with Maggie Huffman in our first two segments, and our friend Rick Bernardo is our co-host today. And
That's me.
And Rick designed this idea of the diversity of love. And I'm going to let you introduce our next guest.
And just to be clear, I didn't design the whole idea of love for the earth or the planet, just for these broadcasts, just a through theme of the diversity of love connections and the many forms and layers that love can take in our lives. And
Especially in February, when there's a whole lot of emphasis on just one kind of love. And we've just gone through Valentine's Day, but we still have sort of love in the air.
yeah, and we were speaking with Maggie Huffman about layers of vocation and service and leadership and her work in that area. And Reverend Dean J. Seal, we've had on our broadcast before back in April, talking about his work in arts and spirituality and also the theme of justice. But a bit about him. Reverend Dean J. Seal is pastor of Shepherd of the Hill Church. That's a Presbyterian church in Chaska. At chaskachurch.com. You can find the history and their current work, and we'll come back to that. But he was ordained to ministry also in interfaith dialogue back in 2008. He's got several degrees in the arts and spirituality and a Master of Divinity, which you kind of need to be a pastor. And he was also adjunct professor of religion at Augsburg University for many years. He's also got, and I think this is maybe how we came across each other and first started speaking, Reverend Dean and I both have different layers of background in show business. and for example, he's an award-winning producer for the Minnesota Fringe Festival, which is famous. And he also performed in Mr. Elk and Mr. Seal on Comedy Central. Wrote for Prairie Home Companion, MTV, and elsewhere. Anyway, after all that, Reverend Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm good, and thanks for bringing up the showbiz thing. I'm one of the only people you'll ever meet who can sing La Bamba in Norwegian and Japanese and Hebrew.
I love it. And
I did not know that.
Someday, Pastor Dean, we're going to have you come back and show us.
You can only do one at a time. If you do all three of them, it really wears out.
It's very confusing.
That's called speaking in tongues, though. It would you'd have to go there.
Well,
yeah, we're not that end of the spiritual thing. The Presbyterians don't speak in tongues.
Well, we're kind of buttoned up, aren't we? You know, it's the Scottish roots that keep us buttoned up a bit.
Oh man,
very much good and proper order.
That's right, and it's the basis of getting decisions done, right, in good community.
That's right,
and committee.
You make decisions.
That's right,
and you make something happen,
and we act on them, which is part of the conversation we're going to have today with you about love and justice throughout history, and in a particular emphasis of Minnesota housing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, when Rick brought this to me, he brought up a phrase that comes up a lot, which is something that Cornel West said. He said, "Justice is what love looks like in public."
Oh, I like that.
Okay, so Cornel West wrote this. He edited a book called The Radical King, which is a collection of Dr. King stuff that shows that he was much more radical than people give him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
He was a advocate for not just for Black people, but for all poor people. And I've worked with a pastor, Doug Mitchell, who grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and was around for a lot of that. And I asked him if he thought Dr. King got killed because he said he was against the war in Vietnam. And he said, no, it was the Poor People's March, because he was going to bring together Black and white poor people. It was going to be the end of dividing the two, because when you divide the Black and white poor people from each other, they don't have the collective power to change things. So that's one of the great things about Dr. King, is he wanted to bring everyone together to create justice. And justice in housing means you can afford to live somewhere. And housing issue is our number one mission at the church, Shepherd of the Hill. It was that way before I got there. There was a commitment to families that were homeless. Now, Scott and Carver County are the only two counties in the metro area that don't have emergency homeless shelters. So homeless families were coming to our church asking for food, asking for money, and other churches, they all got together and they said, why don't we let them sleep in our churches at night? Mm. There's a line from Isaiah that says, bring the homeless people into your house. Okay. Now that's an act of public love to a stranger. And they started to organize it so that people would move from one church to another until we ran out of churches. I mean, we didn't have all 52 weeks covered.
Right.
And that's not a really great experience of moving every week and sleeping in a church, but it beats sleeping in your car. Okay?
Especially when it's cold, you know.
A lot of these families are doing that. Mm. So that commitment has grown, and it's dovetailed into the work of Beacon Interfaith Housing. Now, I don't know if you've heard of those guys. They started as the Plymouth Neighborhood Improvement Association, coming out of Plymouth Congregational Church.
Yeah.
And they had the same thing of dealing with homeless people. So they like bought this motel that was at the end of their block
Oh, really?
that gone out of business and made it into a homeless shelter. They got a lot of pushback from the neighborhood, but they started to explore the housing crisis, which is a national crisis.
Mhm.
You know, in Los Angeles, they just declared an emergency for there's 40,000 homeless people on the streets. And so Beacon said, you know, the number one problem we see is elders. They can't move out of their houses. They would like to downsize, but there's no place to move into, even if they had the money. Okay. So they started building senior residences, and they built like 3 of those in St. Paul. And then when I first encountered them, they were building a place on Nicollet Avenue in 56, and it was for young people, 16 to 24. And a lot of those were LGBTQ kids who've been kicked out of the house. And they came to Westminster Presbyterian, which was my home church, and Plymouth Congregational in Westminster kicked in and raised $1 million. Westminster gave 3/4 of that, and Plymouth gave 1/4 of it to build this house. Okay, now that is the collective power of a community, a faith community, saying we're gonna make something happen. We're gonna make a decision here, and we're gonna create something that wouldn't be there otherwise. Republicans like to talk about the invisible hand of the marketplace is going to solve all our problems.
Yeah, no.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
Not the case. So the invisible hand here was a couple of Protestant churches who said, let's build this building, because homeless kids, especially LGBTQ, end up being sex trafficked, right? Because they're desperate for money. They have no place to live.
And what strikes me is that a home is not only a roof over your head. Home can be health. If you are on the streets and you don't have access to health care because you're just worried about making sure that there's a roof over your head or you're safe for a night, you're not going to be looking at all the other things that you need. But once you have that roof over your head, you can start taking care of yourself and you can get connected to health resources and whatnot. You're saving lives when you can provide housing.
Yes. You're making a very important point, which is that somebody might have a little buffet of problems they're trying to deal with, but if you can't really solve any of them until you've found a place to live.
Right.
So by identifying housing as the priority, then you can begin to solve other problems.
Well, it's the Maslow hierarchy. You got to have the foundation, right? And with the foundation, you can move up. But I think sometimes the idea of we don't have to give money out; they can pull themselves up with their bootstraps. Well, that's
not if they don't have boots.
Exactly. Where's the straps? There's no boots. Come on, you need to have the compassion for human to human to recognize that when one hurts, we all hurt. So it's an investment in the community.
And compassion is this great Buddhist concept that they really emphasize. But the Dalai Lama famously said, compassion isn't enough. You also have to act.
Well, perhaps
you have to take action to make something happen.
Perhaps compassion isn't complete unless you've acted.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that compassion isn't just the warm fuzzies and empathy. It's compassion is being calm with that sense of witness. It's a with passion. So you can't be with unless you're active, in my mind.
Yeah, and it seems it's always got to be in action. Otherwise, it's not really compassion. I mean, even if it's compassion in the sense of like, I'm going to listen to you, that takes something to sit and start and listen, which, all of that, it takes.
And be open to hearing and changing and doing.
And so how do we act? How does that action, even if it's quiet action, that's such a core part of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the new Pope, Francis, I like him most of the time. And he said a really cool thing. He said, we pray for the hungry, then we go feed them. That's how prayer works.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's that taking the steps of doing something more that's so important. It's part
Yeah.
of love, isn't it? Isn't that where the love takes place? It moves us to action. That compassion
Yeah.
and love is then the manifestation of creating the connection, creating the opportunity for betterment for all.
Yeah, and love is usually associated with romance and stuff like that. But in the context of the faith journey, it's a commitment. It's an act of will. It's something you decide to do. And in the process of committing our church life to homeless families, that process has been going on for 10 or 12 years now. And we see these small pieces of incremental progress. I got to tell you about one family that really sticks out to me. We have the good thing that Scott and Carver County have done is they've created a service center in the lower level of our church, where Beacon Interfaith Housing helps process people, registers them with the county to find out if there's housing available, finds them food, and so they can save up for a down payment, helps them organize their finances. If they need a job, they help them find a job. If they need a place to sleep because they're working at night, there's a bed there. And so we see families coming in and out of our church on a regular basis. So there's this one family, mother, father, 3 kids. The father had a great job, and then he got sick.
Yeah.
And there was a mysterious illness, and he was sick for like 5 weeks. And he lost his job. They fired him. And because they lost his job, they couldn't pay their rent, and they got evicted. So here's 5 people sleeping in an SUV. Okay.
Wow.
They come into the program, and it takes quite a while to find a place for 5 people that's affordable, because we don't build enough places for people to live.
Right.
So I'm seeing this woman on a regular basis, and I'd say, yeah, nice day today. Because you don't say, hey, how's the homeless thing going, right?
Probably not a tactful thing to open with, for sure.
No, they're very self-conscious. They feel, embarrassed.
Sure.
But we also knew them to be, great people, regular people, and they're getting their act together. And then one day I just said, nice day today. And she turned and said, we got some good news. We're moving into an apartment on Friday. And then she burst into tears, and she gave me a hug, and she said, the kids are really looking forward to it.
Oh my gosh.
And I just thought, okay, I'm spending my time in the best possible way I can, is to contribute to creating this infrastructure to help these people who are nice, normal people who are getting screwed by a system that doesn't build affordable housing. Okay.
And the power of that love gets manifested into empowerment. And and it is a lesson for us all, and it enriches our love as well. I mean, it's a gift back to you. I'm assuming that must have just filled you with such grace and glory at that moment that they had a place.
It's very humbling and very rewarding. Is that we feel like we're just pushing this rock up a hill.
Yeah.
And we don't see much progress on a day-to-day basis. But the fact that we stuck with it meant that stuff could eventually happen. So it's the commitment to make that act of love.
Well, Pastor Dean,
over time.
Well, Pastor Dean, I got to take a break, and then we'll have a short 4th segment, but we will be back to talk more with you and learn more about the wonderful work you're doing with Minnesota Housing. And thank you for staying with us on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Okay, give me a few minutes. Okay, he's on your line.
Hey, Pastor Seal, how are you? This is Lori. Great. How about if you just talk a little bit about your passion so that we get a sound level? Back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, yes.
Question for you, Dan.
Mhm.
Are you going to put the 4:35 up for me?
Yes, I
or
will.
because I can use a stopwatch if you can't.
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you. And have you got me connected back to Pastor Dean?
You're still connected to Pastor Dean right now.
Pastor Dean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, wonderful.
All right. Good to see you.
We're connected on the Connections Radio
Yay.
Show.
I need to start a new audio file. Just take me a set.
Oh, okay.
minute.
That'll be fine.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
So, what is your sermon going to be tomorrow?
I'm on
sounds
sabbatical
sabbatical.
right now to work on my dissertation.
Oh, are you? So, how long are
It's
you
about
on?
I got 2 more weeks,
Oh, okay.
and it's about bringing the black social gospel into the white church.
Oh, how fabulous. How fabulous.
Yeah, a lot of it's about Bonhoeffer and the time he spent in Harlem,
Uh-huh.
and how he went to the Abyssinian Baptist Church, and he said, "This is the first place I've experienced the Holy Spirit."
Yeah. Yeah.
Pastor, would you be willing to come back after you've got your dissertation done and tell us about your
Yes.
dissertation? That'd be great.
Yes.
I'd love to have a whole show on it.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
That'd be awesome.
You know, it would be kind of fun. Do you have a favorite music that we could have and bring in every once in a while on good black gospel?
I can work up a song list.
Okay, that'd be great.
There's other there's a couple of great songs. Prodigal Son, which the Rolling Stones recorded,
Oh,
was
yeah.
written by a black Baptist preacher. Poor boy took father's bed, started down the road.
We'll
And,
just have you sing it. We won't have to bring in any. We'll
yeah.
just have you do it. We'll have it.
Yeah.
All right. So for
And
this
then
show,
the great gospel hit, La Bamba in Hebrew.
oh, that would be something.
Sympathy for the devil.
Sympathy for the devil. No, that's compassion.
I love it. So Pastor Dean.
Yeah.
We've got, because of course I'm a chatty Cathy and we went over. We only have about 4 minutes and 34 seconds for this last segment. And
Yep.
our friend Rick is going to do a segue, but I just want you to be thinking about what are some closing thoughts that you want to have for our listening audience to have them be
Yeah, I
thinking
want to
about.
focus on the March 20th event at the state capitol.
That'd be great.
To pass the housing bill.
That would be great. We'll make sure that either Rick or I give you the cue to talk about that. But that's love
Okay.
in action, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
justice.
totally.
That's love, justice in love.
Yes.
All right, that sounds good to me. Rick, you're cool with creating the segue and making sure that he gets the time to do the march.
Well, okay.
Yeah. You're good. You're
Yes.
good. You're
Yes,
good.
indeed.
All right. I know I sort of created, I just let us keep going, but so we only have 4 minutes, but it's still going to be good. It's going to be focused on justice.
Okay, stand by.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. And we have been talking about the diversity of types of love in our lives and aspirations of love. And our last conversation, in our last segment, we had Pastor Dean be sharing with us about love is justice, and looking at housing and looking at ways that we can expand our love and thinking about what can we do to make a difference. And Rick Bernardo, you are the creator of the Love as Diversity
Right.
segments. Yeah.
Only for this broadcast, not
Right.
not for the whole world, but I can be an overachiever otherwise. But we've got Pastor Dean J. Seal with us from Shepherd of the Hill Presbyterian Church in Chaska. And we had been speaking in this whole broadcast about different forms of love. Maggie Hoffman was talking about careers and vocations. And Pastor Dean is talking about his work in justice and housing. There is a wonderful line from Frederick Buechner that vocation is where you are called to the place where your own deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And I love that idea, if we can ever find that sweet spot in our lives. And Pastor Dean, you've been working in the seams of that yourself. There is upcoming an event at the Capitol. Can you tell us a little more about that? That I understand that's March 20th.
Yeah, it's Monday, March 20th. There's a bill that Beacon Interfaith Housing is putting forward with all the other housing organizations like Project for Pride in Living and Habitat for Humanity. And it's they did the math. They said we can end homelessness in the state of Minnesota for $1.7 billion.
Wow.
And the state has a surplus of, I think it's like $12, $13 billion right now. And they did a demonstration at the Capitol in January, and they were hoping for 100 people, and 200 people showed up. And they were hoping for one speaker from the Senate to show up, and the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Senate Majority Leader, and the Speaker of the House came to speak on behalf of this bill. So,
wonderful.
We've got a trifecta of three branches of the government that want to make something happen. Now, this is a justice issue because our system will subsidize a rich person building a $20 million mansion on Lake Minnetonka by giving them a tax break on the interest of their mortgage. But they don't subsidize housing for people who work for a living. Okay, so we're not just talking about, we're talking about people who work at Target, but we're also talking about policemen. We're talking about teachers.
Yeah.
We're talking about normal people who can't find a place to live because we don't build them a place.
Pastor
So
Dean,
this bill,
how do they find out how to get there and to support it? You know, is there a website or is there information that they can get access to?
Beacon Interfaith Housing or chaskachurch.com for Shepherd of the Hill. And you can send us an inquiry on that. Or call us at 952-448-3882.
And give that one more time.
Clear people.
Can you give that phone number?
952-448-3882.
And we'll also include that on the on our podcast overview.
Great.
And ideally, you'd like to have people join you at the Capitol.
Yes.
Come on down.
Well, they can meet us at church at 9 a.m. that day, and we're gonna fill a bus and bring the bus down there. And Beacon has promised everybody hot chocolate when they arrive.
And what I love about this is that not only that 1.2 billion helps people get homes, but it also creates a better economy. It's an investment for everyone. It's not just to give as a nice gesture. This is an investment in having our economy just blossom because everyone has a right to have a home.
Yes, and it's not just building. They also are fully funding Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing is where the state will subsidize people who are spending more than 30% of their income on rent.
So come on down on March 20th and make sure that you're part of the march on the Capitol. Thanks so much, Pastor Dean. We so much appreciate you being part of our show today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Are you still there, Pastor Dean?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to go on and on about all this stuff.
Oh, we love it. What are you talking about? That's why I invite you. We